Hello, guys. Welcome to the Elrond Town Hall conversation. Really great to have you with us today. I think we're going to just wait 30 seconds maybe, and then we'll start the conversation and go over the most important points. I see a lot of people are already with us, and thanks to everyone for being here. Really great to have you with us. Let's maybe just, wait another 20 seconds and then we can start. Perfect. It's been a crazy period. Insane on so many levels. And it's great to have this conversation, be alive and pushing really hard for the next steps. I can imagine that this period, this last few days and so forth have been very, very intense for the entire Elrond community. They've been extremely intense for the Elrond team and for everyone in the ecosystem as well. But to be able to have the conversation after, the Maiar Dex is back live, and to be able to go over everything, to look at what we can improve, this is a really, really great position to be in. So thanks again for being here, everyone. Today we'll touch a bit on the Maiar Dex, especially where we are, why this is a great position to be in, what we've learned during the last week or so, and what are some of the next steps and next lessons as we move forward. The Maiar Dex is one of the discussions. Of course, there's a discussion briefly about Holoride and the ride listing and some of the exciting next steps that we have ahead of us. Just putting a bit the notes in order. And I'll just go ahead and start with the Maiar Dex part, which I think is the most important element of the conversation. It's been, as I said before, an extremely intense period. And it's been extremely intense for the entire Elrond team and extremely intense for the entire Elrond community. But the really, really great part is that the Maiar Dex is live, that we're back on track with everything, and that now we're focused on optimizing different things, preparing for the next steps, making sure that the next steps are more robust, more solid, and done in a way that eliminates a possibility of similar situations happening again. Now, I think it's extremely important to dive in and discuss a bit how the upgrades were supposed to happen and what has happened throughout this time, to give you an overview of where we are, and then diving in on two of the lessons that we see extremely useful and some of the next steps that are important for the Maiar Dex. The interesting part is that if we look at last week, we've had a massive launch. We've had massive excitement from the community, from people outside of the Elrond community, and from everyone that was discovering the Maiar Dex. Now, in preparation for this excitement, we were preparing some upgrades that were supposed to make things more stable, process more as a way of throughput for the Maiar DEX and prepare us for the ride listing and some of the other events that we had planned. So we've prepared an upgrade, and as we made every step in preparation for the upgrade, we've essentially discovered immediately after the upgrade went live that the upgrade was not executed correctly. And then as we discovered this, we've essentially immediately halted the upgrade and then put everything on standby in order to make sure that, one, security is bulletproof, every fund is safe, and so forth. This was the first step, and the first step was done with the focus of making a very significant gas optimization. Now, from this step to reviews, to verifying everything regarding the security part and making sure that we're on track to make a second release, we've been working extremely hard with the team sitting in the office for several days until the day after in the morning, leaving at 6 a.m. and so forth. So it was quite an interesting period. And then we prepared everything and wanted to release things on Saturday. And we again made sure that everything is in place, again made sure that we validated some of the testing parts that we had prepared. And then in the second update, we've essentially discovered that there was an optimization bug on the economic side. And what we've seen on Saturday, specifically referring to the APRs that were rapidly inflating, was due to a bug. Now, as we've discovered this, it took a bit to see that, to validate that this was indeed the case, that this was indeed a problem. And so what we've made sure is, as it was clear that the bug was there, we've stopped the Maiar DEX and then started processing and heavily auditing every part of the DEX as well, in order to make sure first, again, highest priority was to see that funds are safe, that no effect was in the DEX beyond the APR change. And of course, the APR change was a bug that we've afterwards discovered. But in this process, with the first upgrade and with the gas optimizations and with the second upgrade and with the APR bug, we've learned some very important things. And these things are very focused on a few elements that we believe are extremely important, and they've been again reinforced, and their importance is even clearer at this point. First, we've put a lot of focus before the Maiar DEX launch on the security part. Internally, with all kinds of testing, with the community, with all kinds of testing and the battle of wheels part, and with runtime verification on peer reviewing every part that we were supposed to launch. Now, even more than before the launch, it's clear now that every Maiar DEX upgrade will be a lot closer to the mainnet upgrades. Given the impact of every upgrade, given the implications that we see, it will be extremely important not only to follow the procedure of peer reviewing every line of code that we have, not only writing tests and making sure that everything is heavily tested, but also making sure that this is externally peer reviewed, um, with runtime verification and so forth. And you'll probably hear an update on this a bit later. But then also that we, with every new upgrade, especially serious upgrades, will have a 1 day or half of a day to test this on a testnet with the community, with Battle of Yields, and making sure that both internally, externally, and then with the community, we have gone through every step of reviewing and validating that things are in place, that they're as close to bulletproof as possible, and that they're empirically validated. There are many situations and periods where we would want to push things a lot harder, a lot faster. But when you're dealing with this large amounts of money from people all over the world, the pressure is extremely high. But then without the security part that stays in place, you'll not have a second time to be able to try to improve things and so forth. So given this part, which is extremely important, of course, that after we've discovered the bug, we went through an entire process of reviewing everything again, not only internally, but then with runtime verification. And then, as you've seen, also with a battle of yields competition with the community. In doing so, we've already validated the process through which we'll probably take every upgrade starting from this point. Why? It's very simple, because if we want to build the Maiar DEX as one of the most compelling and powerful DEXs, not only in the Elrond ecosystem, but in the blockchain ecosystem, in the financial space, in the DeFi space, it's extremely important that we make sure that first and foremost, security is as close to bulletproof as possible. And to make it close to bulletproof, we have this process, as I said, to do things very rigorously internally, then to validate them with a third party that is very close and rigorous and so forth. And this is runtime verification. And then thirdly, to always validate this empirically with the community through a battle of yields competition or a testnet event that we're running and validating. This was a very important lesson, and one that will become the standard as we move forward. It will also calibrate some of the timelines, because, of course, we want sometimes to launch things in 1 hour from the point that we discussed them, but this is virtually impossible, just as it's impossible to launch a new mainnet upgrade in virtually 1 hour. The more parties you have to upgrade, the more large the stakes and implications are, the more careful you want to be, and the more you want to make sure that you have a second day to optimize to be there. With this in place, I'm going to the second point, which is that in order to validate that the bug has been solved, we've had to go through this entire process. It took a lot of time, and even when we were convinced that this was basically the case, that the bug was solved and that we've moved forward, we still did the testing one more time. It took another half of a day just to do all the tests again and to go through the process. But at the end of the day, we've rebuilt the confidence level that the Maiar DEX is ready, that it's secure, and that it can be the foundation on top of which we built the gateway for the ecosystem liquidity and the Elrond ecosystem liquidity, especially. Now, I think this is a very, very important step. Challenges will have at every step of the way. And this has probably been one of the most intense challenges that we've seen throughout the period. We're quite used to pushing super hard and so forth, but this almost feels like having a sort of near death experience. And um, as you wake up, as maybe you were close to an accident, someone was close to hitting you, or something really really tricky could have happened. You're alive, you're looking at things, and of course the situation was as intense as it can get. um, but since you're alive and since things are in order, you're looking at life with a renewed appreciation for things, renewed appreciation and respect for, as I said, security, renewed appreciations for seeing the product live after so many days of super hard work and tricky bugs and so forth. And more importantly, maybe renewed appreciation for the team that has pushed beyond limits, because this was not only, let's say, a technical challenge, but it was a real physical challenge. I mean, the days up until the morning, several days, um, was quite were quite a Iron Man for for some of the team members, for most of the team members. But beyond the team, I think this was perhaps the most intense challenge for the community as well, especially since we have a lot of community members that are new to Elrond, that are only now discovering the ecosystem and so forth. Um, it's extremely, extremely important to understand that since things are live and they're secure, we're extremely, extremely happy and excited to see them this way, and extremely excited for the next steps. But it's always good to sit back, look a bit at all the progress, and before pushing to the next steps, appreciating what exists, appreciating that it's live, appreciating that everyone is here and everyone can focus on the next steps. And here I want to especially say again how important the contribution of the team has been, and how important the contribution of all the hardcore community members has been. We've seen a lot of support, a lot of help in all the interesting ways that you can think of. Of course, a lot of challenges as well, but we very, very much appreciate that as challenges arise, you have basically two options. You die when such a huge challenge arises, and we've seen many, many deaths in the crypto space of projects that were hit with the first challenge and then they never recovered. Or you have the opportunity to grow harder, grow stronger, by going through the challenge, by testing the limits again, and then at the end of the day, waking up the second day, the third day, the fourth day, and then making sure that the product is live, that as painful, as challenging as it is, you make sure that things are there and they're alive and they're ready to move forward. We're now at the point where the pain is behind us. And I think this, as I said before, this has been perhaps one of the most intense periods for the Elrond community. But it's one where people discover that we can take things to the next level. That even though we have challenges and will run into challenges every once in a while, when the toughest challenges hit us, we'll find ways to mobilize, to put in the effort, and to just move forward, whatever it takes. Um, this is the one thing that Elrond has always done from the beginning till now, and it's the one thing that we'll focus on doing forward. It's not simple. It's never easy. It's super hard at times and super painful, but it's what we're good at. Just in pushing and setting new standards and taking the challenges and making something very, very useful out of them. And it's what the community has demonstrated to maybe a lot of other communities. And it's what all the people in the Elrond ecosystem throughout this time have had to do. I expect with their friends, with their families, and with everyone that has some involvement in the Elrond ecosystem. So huge thanks for all that support, and we're going to push extremely hard to make sure that we minimize any kind of challenge like this before it appears. Doing everything within our power to validate things, to take feedback, to peer review them, and to heavily test things until they break, so that when we launch them, we have a much better experience. This is one of the steps. A second step that we're discussing briefly about the Meyer DEX is the economics part. I can understand that since we've started, economics have shifted, and economics have upgraded and have been refined and so forth. And it's extremely important, as we discussed during the last weeks when we proposed the new economic upgrade, to underscore that there are some key principles that we want to make sure we try to align towards. And these principles focus very much on long-term growth, on long-term alignment, rather than short-term profits. We've never been about that, and we want to make sure that whenever we discover something that can be improved, that can be taken to the next level, we find a way to, one, properly communicate this with the community, properly allow and enable everyone to bring feedback, to bring concerns, to just be heard as they have something to express, and then to make sure that the feedback, the proper ideas, the improvement, those get then implemented and we can move forward. And this is also important for the economic side. Now, one thing I would like to underscore is we've started with some extremely exciting economics to ensure an unparalleled bootstrapping for the Maiar DEX. This has been a tremendous success. Unlike any other DEX in the ecosystem, we've achieved something remarkable in the shortest time possible. Then we've moved to the second step, which was refining this economics, not only for short-term bootstrapping, but then with the idea of longer-term alignment and growth. And we've achieved this as well. But then on Saturday, as you've probably seen, the APR bug has distorted things quite significantly, to the point where a lot of people have been making some decisions there around the 10,000% APR and the bugs that were displayed at that point. So with this new update, we've basically moved to recalibrating the principles based on the principles that we presented in the last conversations, namely making sure that locked max is the first class citizen of the Maiar DEX ecosystem. Then Eagle and Max are the farms where most of the people can participate and can be part of, and can provide liquidity and get rewards for the liquidity they provide. And then the USDC and Eagle pair, This is also an important pair that keeps the Maiar DEX liquidity going, enables people to go in and out. And we are at a point where some of the display elements on the Maiar DEX still need to be updated based on the last version of the rewards. And you've probably seen them change, then you've seen them upgraded. What I want to briefly touch on is one, at first, when we launch something, since the complexity is so high, some things cannot be done from the outset. Some things need to be done as we move forward. And this is why it's extremely important to be able to refine things. It's extremely important to be able to discuss them and then move forward with the optimizations rather in a timely manner when we see that they don't work as expected. And then secondly, it's extremely important to be able to not only refine things, but then make sure that we communicate them properly. And one thing that, for instance, up until yesterday was not implemented in the APR display was that beyond the APR that people receive from the max emission that's coming in, the rewards per block that are coming in, there's also a quite significant amount of rewards that are coming in from fees. And this also brings us to the important point of what's next for the Maiar DEX. Because we're live, the Maiar DEX is working as expected, and there are many things that we can upgrade, many things that we can optimize. And beyond upgrades and optimizations, many things that will probably launch during the next period. And this important step is the important step is to shift from this initial launch mindset to the growth mindset that comes with the new features, with the new listings, with the new pairs that will be available and bring additional liquidity. So we've had a first phase, now we've had a second phase with quite a significant challenge. And now we're entering a sort of third phase where post this challenge, we're looking at what are the most significant things that will grow the Maiar DEX, that will grow the ecosystem, that will bring a lot of value to the community and to the Maiar DEX. And some of these things are very obvious. Having new pairs listed, having new projects from the ecosystem, be able to have pairs through which they can swap and through which our community can participate in them. This is extremely important. Having new farms with new projects that come on top of the Elrond ecosystem and in the Elrond community is extremely important. And being able to farm these farms with locked max is quite valuable because it reinforces this longer term value for the Maiar DEX token and especially for the locked max token. And of course, this is the main thing that if you look over 6 months and 12 months should be the driving force of the sustainability of the Maiar DEX token. Why? Because when this works, you'll have so many fees from the swaps that they will provide a super significant reward on top of the emission. And as the emission is recalibrated and goes a lot down, you'll still have very significant rewards that you can reap and that you can harvest and so forth. So the Maiar DEX is now at the point where we're preparing for the next listings, for the next farms, for the next pools, and this will be the next exciting step here. We have some quite exciting projects and discussions in the pipeline but we want to take them one step at a time. Beyond this part, we'll probably just briefly touch on a second step, on a second point that we wanted to touch today. So the first one, just as a summary, is about the Maiar DEX. The Maiar DEX challenge that we've had, what the problem specifically was with the first issue, what the problem was with the second issue, and where we are today. What we've learned from some of these challenges, how important the effort and the attitude of the team and the community were, and all the people that were involved in this. And for all of this, we're super thankful. Now, even more important as a summary is what's next. Well, it's clear that we'll have several updates and optimizations, and it's clear that all of this can be communicated better, tested better, and will be rigorously brought to life in the Mardex to the process that we've discussed before. Now, in addition to all of that, the new listings, the new farms, and so forth will be prepared, and we have a lot of optimizations that will be done on the DEX itself to improve UX even more, to make sure that things run as smoothly as possible. This will be an ongoing process that we're pushing towards very, very heavily. Now, moving to the next step, we're discussing a bit about ride listing. Of course, as we've mentioned last time, whole ride is probably the most exciting project in the ecosystem coming to the Elrond ecosystem. And the community is thrilled to discover it, to find out more about it. And we've seen their community grow tremendously. And we're quite happy to see all of that. Everyone has been expecting the Maiar DEX to come live again so we can make the next plans. And we're very excited to say that at this point, we're still evaluating things and pending sync and discussion with the whole ride team and agreeing on a specific date for the probably the next week. We'll probably discuss about something second half maybe of next week and so forth. But what I can tell you is everyone is expecting this. We are expecting it as well, and we can't wait for the Maiar DEX and for the MEX token and the Eagle token to have even more utility as the right token is listed for their community to really be part of the Elrond community and get all the value that we've prepared. And we've just made sure that everything is ready now on our end. We're going to test a few things, make sure that there are no other surprises regarding this, and we'll just discuss this with the whole right team as soon as we have a date set, probably today or tomorrow. We'll announce probably the date with the whole right team. Quite excited about them, and it's awesome to have this conversation again and to be able to focus on the next steps. So I think that the exciting part is that they're ready. The Maiar DEX is ready, and as soon as we have the update, we'll be able to move and announce it to the community as well. Maybe a third point, and then we'll start taking some questions from the community, is that throughout this last period, as you've seen, a lot of effort has been put on the Maiar DEX. And I cannot underscore how many of the teams that we have inside Elrond have just had to focus on the necessary um, tools, on the necessary optimizations, on the necessary components that the Meyer DEX required for it to go live. And there has been a tremendous concentrated effort on this, not only inside the team, but outside the team as well. We've seen quite some interesting experiments from people all over the world that have built tools, either graphs, either integrations with the Meyer DEX, or different automatizations of tasks that people want to perform when they're farming. We welcome this effort very much and appreciate it very much. And I'll keep repeating this over and over again. In Elrond, builders are heroes. And it's because through builders, we come to have whatever we love, whether it's different products, whether it's different services. This is how we shape society, how we shape and reshape our lives. And this is what we know will bring the largest effect, the most rewarding um, rewards in the long term, not only financially, but also as an impact in society and so forth. So um, a lot of respect and appreciation for all the builders in the ecosystem. And beyond this point, what I would say is we have some other upgrades that will be coming during the next period, and we're focusing on. One of these upgrades is a very, very improved version of the Elrond bridge. Things are in the process and progressing quite well on that front. Just checked a bit with the team today, and things are looking quite nice there. Can't wait to start testing this with the team and with the community. There are, of course, multiple significant integrations for the Elrond ecosystem that are still coming and that have been finalized after working on them for months and months. And we're quite excited about them and can't wait to share them. Of course, there's work on NFTs, and it's not only what we're working on, but I've seen a tremendous wave of excitement and tremendous wave of experimentation and creativity and so forth. And quite happy to see all of that. I believe we're at the very, very, very first step in this process, and that we'll see um, maybe some of the most powerful experiments that will drive adoption will come from the NFT space. Because with money, people sometimes are sort of bewildered. Money has money evokes this strange let's say reaction sometimes in people. It's either very exciting for some or very tricky for others. But art is a different language. Art can capture the mind and imagination without having to trigger a lot of the let's say resistance or filters that the other mechanisms like money would trigger. So I'm expecting to see probably the largest wave of adoption coming through art, because at the end of the day, through art you can make things simpler, you can make things more exciting, you can make things more beautiful, more compelling. And through art, we'll probably just see people reimagining what blockchain is, what crypto is, what it's all about, and how we can really bring a different um, level of impact and meaning to what we're doing and to society. So NFTs will come and will become even more valuable on Elrond. We're going to see some marketplaces, some more marketplaces emerge. And as we make progress on them, I think a lot of the community will be able not only to participate and get exposure, but also to express new ideas, to share them with the community, to find people that are interested and share these ideas and can contribute themselves to those ideas. And quite excited about that step as well. Of course, as we discussed right at the start and maybe in some other conversations, the Meyer Dex is basically just the first step. At the end of the day, Elrond is pushing hard to create the backbone for a new financial system that is high bandwidth, low latency, and transparent, and that can give access to anyone, anywhere. Now, pushing towards this, Elrond is live and a lot of tools, improved tools, are coming live. And Maiar is live, and a lot of people are using Maiar and are asking for different new things and so forth. And a lot of upgrades are coming. And the Maiar Dex essentially starts this new story, this new growth direction where it's not only about Elrond. It has never been only about Elrond as the protocol or Maiar as the application, but the Maiar Dex makes this emphasis even stronger, where different projects, different products can come in, just as Holoride comes in, can take the technology, can embed it in a very cool product, and then can use it without having to build it all over again. This is what the Mardex is about. We'll see many stories here. It's not only about the transactional part. Of course, transactions are awesome. The fact that we can exchange value, any type of value, is extremely useful and extremely valuable to the ecosystem. But then enabling new products to come in, to be part of the community, to get the liquidity, to be able to share this liquidity with some of the other community members and some of the other projects and so forth. This is something that will ultimately drive the growth to the next level. And with each new product that's coming and using the Elrond technology, with each new tool that will make it simpler to use and more effective to use, will just take things to the next level. We'll, of course, see many more things in this process or in this pursuit of making the most compelling case for a new financial infrastructure at a global level. We'll have many conversations not only about the next steps for DeFi tools, lending and some other things like synthetics and so forth. And this we've discussed very, very in detail in the DeFi 2.0 thesis. But we'll also look at how we can create the most effective and compelling bridge to the fiat economy, to the traditional economy, to enable people from the entire world to come in the blockchain or crypto space, to be part of the artistic expression wave that we're seeing, to be part of the new financial primitives that can be used and are even more useful than what we've had before, and to be part of this revolution that's happening and that we are part of. At the end of the day, this is just one step that's a huge leap forward, and that we can maybe over the weekend, over the next few days, think about. Elrond is live and is working as probably it's now at its best since any moment that we've had the network live, not only in terms of architecture but in terms of bandwidth, in terms of usage, in terms of utility, in terms of merchants accepting e-gold, in terms of tools that people can use. Maiar is live and is providing uh, the simplest interaction with this blockchain to very simple user that discover Elrond and are joining and so forth. Now the Maiar DEX opens this new space for tens and hundreds and probably thousands of projects that are going to launch and be part of the Elrond ecosystem during the next period. So I couldn't be more excited about the next steps. Of course, as I was saying in the beginning, once you have this sort of intense near death experience, um, you just want to take a step back, look a bit at life, um, appreciate the things that really matter, and then once you've rethought things, be able to push hard for some of the things that are in front of us, like the right listing and so forth. So a lot of progress coming from many sides, and a lot more progress is ahead of us. Throughout all of these steps, there are no shortcuts. One cannot just reach the top of the world without going through these challenges, without emerging on top of them. So we'll take the challenges, we'll push forward, we'll always find ways to see things through, and be sure that whatever feedback you have, we always pay very close attention to all of that and try to come up with new things that enable the community to express their feedback and even come in with new ideas, push in with for totally new products and projects, and see where they take us, where they take the entire ecosystem and how they contribute to everything. So it's been a great first part for the conversation. Let's maybe move forward and take a few. Let's maybe take in a few questions, and I'll just check in what my colleagues have put forth to go over them and touch on a few of these questions as well. So, okay. Team, I see the first question is essentially, team is clearly running at capacity. What are the plans to scale? Sure, we are scaling. The speed, more team members doesn't necessarily mean more speed. Beyond a certain point, it's quite the contrary. So at this point, it's just about being able to process things, not taking any shortcuts, making sure that security is in place, and pushing forward. Exceptional people will always be super welcome in Elrond. So even though we're not specifically looking for different things now, we're always looking for exceptional people. Exceptional people on the technical side, exceptional people on the community side, exceptional people on the communication side, on different things. And a good idea here to approach the conversation with Elrond is always to think about a specific problem that you could solve or you could add huge value on top of or on. on that problem, and then come with a solution proactively. And let's discuss that solution. And then at that point, exceptional people always find these solutions, always come with them, and we've had quite some good experiences with resourceful people that have joined the team like that. So always looking for those kind of people, and and I'm sure there are a large amount of people like that in the community. Just find some of the problems, think about them, come and give us a note around those, and quite curious to see what you're coming up with. Um, yeah. So the second question is, what's the current state of the external audit that we have? And here I can give some basic overview. Probably next week we'll release the audit that we have. We have a conversation that's ongoing with runtime verification. Just for you to understand, this is not a conversation that's a one-time event, that they look as in normal audits on the code, and then you're doing something very different and so forth. Rather, we're working very closely with runtime verification, and they're part of the audit process. So whatever we push out, uh, in addition to testing it and peer reviewing it internally, it also goes through them, and they look at it and come with feedback and discover different elements that can be improved. And this is extremely valuable to us, because at the end of the day, it's not about an audit report. It's about discovering the bugs, making sure that they never arrive in production, and minimizing any probability of such events happening in production. So next week, we'll probably have something to communicate around this. It's been ready for some time, but as you can imagine, there have been other more pressing things at hand, and we've been pushing day and night to finalize those. As we move forward, we'll update on this audit report as well, and see what the next steps are there. Okay. Let me check a bit. Okay, so one of the issues, or one of the questions, is the shard 1 performance part. As you've seen, there has been a very high load. There has been sufficient load to challenge some of the things that we have in place in terms of infrastructure and so forth, and to require us to reimagine some of the things. And especially this has been visible on shard 1. What's the idea there? Well, the contracts as they are right now designed are in shard 1, and most of the people have created addresses in shard 1. Now, due to sorting algorithms, incidentally or ironically, the people in shard 1 have been the ones that had to wait for some of the transactions to process, because other transactions had to be put in the process and had to be prioritized. So the idea is that there are two types of dexes. There are single shard dexes, as the one that we have right now, and this is a first version through which we validate that the dex works, through which we validate that there's a lot of demand and a super large market for something like this, a need for something like this. And then there's something significantly better that essentially is just as the Elrond architecture is, multi-sharded. So the single sharded DEX is one where things happen in one shard, and there are some clear limitations there. A multi-sharded DEX is, of course, something that is incomparably more optimal in terms of performance, because it relies on the design of the architecture that is already created. This, of course, is something that is in the process, but will take some time because it's extremely important, again, to make sure that security is right. But the cool part is that we have some very good optimizations that we've tested, and we're now testing even more in the testnet. And as we move forward, we'll probably experiment with multi-sharded farms first. And this will be a very, very interesting experiment because it will give us an idea of how good things can work as they scale significantly with the design of the architecture. And then at a third stage, we'll probably discuss about the new design that aligns with the entire architecture. The good part is that we have a version that's live. We could have always optimized to just release one version in X months, but we wanted to have the first version live to validate a lot of hypotheses, then to come with a significant improvement, and then another significant improvement, and just make sure that momentum is built tremendously and usage is added for the networks, so that we can really take things to the next level. Do you provide any help to people that want to build on Elrond? This is a great question. We definitely provide a lot of help. Let's have some conversations during the next period. And in the past period, we've had discussions about technical elements, discussions about products or projects that might be useful to the ecosystem. And Elrond could provide either an investment or community support, or if the project is super ambitious and can take blockchain outside the current blockchain space in a very meaningful way. There's also the Launchpad, and there's also the Maiar DEX. So there are many things that people can discover within the Elrond ecosystem. But if you're building something cool, make sure to spread this news in the community. You'll not only receive technical help, but also probably, to the degree that the idea is interesting, you'll see a lot of support. And I think people have discovered this with NFTs and with some other cool things as well. But it's important to always make something people love. If they love what you're building, then there's no stopping to the support and effort and so forth that they put into the product that you're building. When will the community be able to list new Esdts on the Meyer DEX? This is a great question. And of course, before the challenge, we were preparing for the right listing. What I think we can expect is that maybe during the next week or the week after that, we'll start having a lot of other conversations about the listing part. We know we have a huge backlog of projects that want to come in and go through the process. We're also already working on a listing procedure or listing process that people can make proposals to the community, and the community can review them, and we can look at them and so forth. And as soon as we have this process, probably during the next 2 to 3 weeks, we'll probably be able to move even faster. But the key thing is here first, have the whole right listing test again the entire architecture, the entire infrastructure. With that, make sure that things are in place. Once we have this, we'll have other listings as well. And again, we'll test some new features and so forth. And before letting everyone push super hard, we'll want to make sure that things are in place to sustain the growth beyond a point that we've seen in the space. Can MEX be listed on other exchanges? not only can it be listed, of course it can, but of course it also will. So the Meyer Dex is just the first step. Having it listed inside the Meyer Dex is a great bootstrapping step, but there are a lot of discussions with exchanges, as you can expect, and we'll probably have some good news around that. And in or at the right time, we're going to see Max going some good places. So, taking the next question. I see a lot of people are mentioning the Maya card. There's a lot of discussion internally to have this. As you know, we're in the process with some acquisitions in order to be able to speed up things, to prepare for them, and to accelerate the process. We're quite close to some updates on this end, and as soon as we have the updates, we'll provide them. Be sure that we're pushing on the cards to come out soon. So we'll see how fast this can happen once the acquisition part is finalized and in place as it should. Okay, and then there are some discussions around the Meyer browser. If we have plans for the Meyer browser, we do have. And we'll take the plans one step at a time. I think the summary of the conversation would be something like this. We've had a huge challenge, and this has been a challenge on many levels. We've learned the lessons, and now we're processing the new information. We've emerged with a new appreciation for everything. Huge thanks to the entire team for pushing and putting all the efforts. Huge thanks for the awesome Elrond community and for helping both new people join and keeping the spirits up and always bringing things on the right track. And then huge thanks for the people that are just there day and night and helping the other people in the community. You might remember that at some point we were below 10,000 people in the main Telegram group. Now we're, I think, above 60,000. This is just a stadium worth of people in a Telegram group. Sometimes we get so used to some of the huge milestones that we achieve that we cannot see them as they actually are. So a lot of progress on the community side, a lot of growth within the ecosystem side, a lot of growth on the building side, not only from Elrond but from a lot of projects that with the Meyer Dex now have an even stronger incentive to deploy on Elrond, to see how things work, to make them work faster. And then a lot of progress on the bridges that we're setting with the traditional economy to enable them to join. And we have a good question. I see a new question here. When will we move over to the metaverse instead of Telegram? That's a good question. And for that, we'll probably need to have an entire discussion with all the super exciting things that can happen. So thanks a lot for the support throughout this period. We're looking very much forward to the next steps, to validating everything we have on the economic side, to monitoring things even more. Highest focus and highest priority is preparing for the whole ride listing and making sure that things are ready and having some conversations with the team and so forth. and then coming live with some of the other very exciting things that we've been working on, we've been preparing, and have put aside for some time to make sure that everything is great with the Maiar decks first. And now that this is live and it's working, and we're moving forward very well, now we're going to bring in some more exciting things that have been in the process for some time, and that we're going to share. It has been quite a year. If you think about it, it's already December and we're having some great conversations. Thanks a lot, guys, for your entire support, and thanks for being here. And be sure to share your feedback on all the elements. Be sure to come in with new projects, new products, and start building them on Elrond. We're always looking forward to this products, to this projects, and have deep respect for builders from everywhere. So please push them forward. Thanks a lot for the conversation, and talk very soon, guys. Have a good one.